calling her the Gemerald Top. This crochet cropped tee is the perfect little piece to add a pop of color to your wardrobe, so I encourage you to try it out using bold, bright colors. We'll be working from the top down, so the crop of this top is totally customizable, and there's no seaming required. Yay! I've been gone for a while, so I had to come back in a big way. We've got linked double crochet, we've got raglan increases, neckline shaping, and a new ribbing I've never tried before. So let's get into the pattern. For this top, I used a really cool yarn. It's called Cumulus from Juniper Moon Farm in the colorway Amazonia, and it's 95% Mako cotton, so it's lofty and soft with great drape. It looks kind of chunky on camera, but when worked up, the gauge is akin to a 4 worsted, so you can use any 4 worsted yarn for this project. I also used a 5.5mm hook, but use whichever hook you need to get the gauge for the pattern. I also used 4 stitch markers to help me mark the raglan increases, and I made sure that they were 2 different colors to help me differentiate between the front and back of my sweater. To begin, we'll make a slip knot and chain the number of chains for your size. I'm working the small and doing 82 chains. I decided to use the super special knit-like long tail chain, which if you haven't seen it yet, you can check out that video next. But it's optional. A regular chain will do just fine. Once you've got your starting chain, it's time to join in the round. Since we're working top down, this little circle will become the neckline of your Gemerald shirt. Make sure your chain isn't twisted and slip stitch to the first chain to join in the round. And test my camera's great autofocus. Now we'll work the first and probably toughest round of this whole pattern because it involves setting up our raglan increases. And we'll be working in the linked double crochet stitch. Go ahead and chain up 2. This chain will not count as a stitch, it's just to get some height. We're going to start our first increase by working 1 double crochet into the same stitch right below your hook. Then we'll make another double crochet into the same stitch, but we're going to make it a linked double crochet. So rather than yarning over like a normal double crochet, you're going to insert your hook under this little sash your previous double crochet is wearing. Yarn over and pull up a loop to get 2 loops on your hook. Then insert into the same stitch and pull up a loop. With 3 loops on your hook, you can yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 to complete a linked double crochet. Then grab a marker that you designated for the back of your sweater and go ahead and pop that into the stitch you just made. To finish up your increase, go ahead and insert into the previous double crochet's sash, pull up a loop, insert again into the same stitch, pull up a loop, and complete a linked double crochet. Now we've got 3 linked double crochets in 1 stitch, and that's your first increase. Make a linked double crochet into the next stitch, and continue making 1 linked double crochet in each of the next 27 stitches for the small size. These stitches will become the back of your sweater. So when you've worked 27 double crochet stitches and come to the next stitch, we'll work another increase. So 3 linked double crochets into that stitch. And mark the center of those 3 stitches with another back marker. So all the stitches between those 2 markers are part of the back neckline of the sweater. As we move on, working 1 double crochet in each stitch, we're working along what will be the first sleeve. So make 12 linked double crochets, 1 in each stitch. I've worked 12 and come to my next stitch, so I'm working an increase right there, and this time I'll place a front marker in the center of the 3 double crochet increase, because after this increase we'll be working along the front stitches of the neckline of the sweater. Again, work the number of stitches for your size, work another increase, place a front marker, and continue working linked double crochets in every stitch until you've worked back around to your starting chain 2. Now, I've tried a few ways to neatly join this stitch in the round. I'll show you the method that I liked best, but feel free to join rounds however is most comfortable for you. I like to start working on it when I have 1 stitch left to go. I'll insert under the sash and pull up a loop, then I insert into my last stitch. Then, with 3 loops on my hook, I like to skip the starting chain 2 and get my hook up under the sash of the first double crochet of the round, and poke the hook out the back. Then yarn over and pull up a 4th loop through that space, yarn over, pull through 3, yarn over, pull through 2. And before we judge, let's do the last part, which is a slip stitch into the top of the first double crochet of the round. There we go. I think it looks pretty good, but feel free to do whichever join seems right to you. Well, now that the hard part is over, let's chain 2, turn our work, and start growing our sweater. You'll make 1 regular double crochet in the first stitch, and chain 2 still don't count as stitches. I'll insert into the sash, pull up a loop, and go right into the next stitch to complete my first linked double crochet. And continue making linked double crochets in each stitch up to the next marker. So all the counting is done. For all sizes, just work to link double crochets up to the next marker. So I made it there. It's a front marker, and I'll go ahead and work 3 linked double crochets, aka 1 increase, into the marked stitch. And into the center of that increase, the middle stitch, replace your marker. Now we can continue on making individual linked double crochets in each stitch and working increases into each marked stitch. And when you've worked around to your 4th marker, you can complete that increase, move the marker, and now we've got 1 stitch left, so we can begin closing the round by setting up your linked double crochet, and inserting under the sash of the first stitch, out the back, pull up a loop, 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 3, yarn over, pull through 2, and complete the round with a slip stitch in the top of the first stitch. Chain 2 and turn your work. Now, what you did for round 2, you're just going to do that over and over again. 1 linked double crochet in each stitch, and 1 increase in each marked stitch. And your raglan increases will grow the front, back, and sleeves of the sweater at the same time until your yoke is long enough that we can connect it at the underarms, aka separating out the sleeves. But before we do that, we're going to add a little shaping to help our shirt fit just a bit better. I bet if you laid out any of the store-bought shirts you have in your closet, they'll look more like this, taller in the back than the front. This is because our bodies aren't symmetrical front to back, so symmetrical clothing tends to hike up in the front. So if we make the back a little taller, the front can sit lower and in a more comfortable way. To pull this off, we're going to add an extra couple of rows to the back and sleeve sections only, but we need our working yarn attached at a different spot. So go ahead and fasten off. And this is where marking the front and back increases differently will come in handy. We're going to leave all the stitches between my two purple front markers alone and only work along the remaining stitches. So let me show you how we get that all set up. You'll identify one of your front markers, and you want to make sure the back of your previous row is facing you. So this is the front of the stitch, you can tell because the double crochets have their little sash. So I'll turn it around, and now the back of the previous row stitches are facing me. Now with my work positioned like this, I'm ready to head that way. And I want to make sure that the other front marker is to my right. If you're a lefty, it'll be the opposite, but I just want to be sure that I'll be crocheting away from the next front marker and not towards it. So fasten on to that front marker that gets all your work positioned this way and chain 2. And you can remove the marker. We don't really need it anymore. And we won't be increasing anymore. Go ahead and work your first double crochet into that first stitch, chain 2 still don't count, and continue working in linked double crochet across every stitch. When you come to your first back marker, you don't need to make an increase, just work one stitch into that stitch. And replace your marker in the stitch you just made. That'll help us shortly when we join the sleeves. But continue on, do the same at your next marker until you reach the second front marker. Work one stitch into that marked stitch, and you can remove it. If you continued on, you'd be working along your front stitches, and we don't want to do that. So stop, chain 2, turn, and head back the other way, working one linked double crochet in each stitch. Now your piece will look like this, with 2 extra rows on the back and sleeves, and 2 fewer rows on the front. Remember how we left our back markers in place? Now those are going to help guide us with where to connect our front and back pieces at the underarm. So let's zoom in and get oriented about where our stitches are facing. This is what you want to see. Triple front. Front of your sweater, with the front of your stitches facing you in the front of your work, and the back of the back stitches are facing you. If it doesn't look right, your piece might be inside out. The other issue is that our working yarn is not in the place we need it to be. So you could fasten off and reattach it, but I prefer to have one less end to weave in if I can help it, and where we need to go is only a couple of slip stitches away. So this is totally optional, but I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch along the edge of these neck shaping rows. No official way to do this, just pop in 3 or so slip stitches along the edge until my live loop is at the very same stitch that I initially fastened onto to start the neck shaping. So that is where you'll fasten on, if you don't do my little slip stitch trick, and we'll grab the back of the sweater and insert our hook into the first back stitch that's next to the marked stitch and slip stitch. Now we've closed our first sleeve. And don't worry about this little extra flap, we'll fix that at the very end. But now we're positioned to start working around to grow the body of our shirt. We're starting a new round, so you can chain 2 and work 1 double crochet in the same stitch. And set up your linked double crochet. Work 1 linked double crochet in each stitch around. When you come to the stitch before the next back marker, work 1 double crochet into that stitch, skip the marked stitch, and grab the front of your sweater. Here are my shaping rows, and we'll work the next double crochet right into the stitch that those shaping rows are coming out of. So linking to the previous stitch, turn your work and insert into the stitch shared by your shaping rows, and complete the linked double crochet right in there, closing the second sleeve. Now we can finish up the other side of the body of the sweater in linked double crochet. When you reach the other underarm, we'll close the round as we have before while completing the last stitch. There, now the sleeves are separated, the body rounds are started, and all that's left to do is to continue working rounds on the body of the sweater until it's as long as you'd like. I went with 14 rounds for my cropped look, about 6 inches of body, but it's completely customizable. Then you can add ribbing to the neckline and bottom hem of the sweater. I used a really cool ribbing that I've never tried before, front post half double crochet. So let me show you how that looks. You can go ahead and fasten on to any old stitch at the back of the neckline, and we're going to chain up 7, and this represents the width of your ribbing. Now we're going to work along these chains just like a foundation chain to set up your front post half double crochet ribbing. We'll start with a row of regular half double crochet, so skip the first chain, work 1 half double crochet in the next chain, and another half double crochet in the next chain. Continue making half double crochets down the length of your chain until you've got 6 half double crochets. Then you can anchor your first row of your ribbing to your project with a slip stitch in the next stitch on your sweater. Then work another slip stitch in the next stitch on the sweater, and another slip stitch in the next. With 3 slip stitches to your sweater, you can turn your work. Find your first stitch on the ribbing and identify the post of that stitch, which will probably be easier for you to see on your own work than mine. But yarn over and weave your hook around the back of the post to make it stick out in the front, and complete a half double crochet. Again, work a front post half double crochet, and continue doing front posts around each previous stitch. On this very last smushed up half double crochet, when you go around the front post, you'll poke your hook out here between the post and the skipped chain. Go ahead and count 6, and when you've got 6 half double crochets, chain 1 and turn your work. Our ribbing doesn't look like much yet, but it will. Make a front post half double crochet around this first stitch and the next, all the way down, 6 half double crochets. Again, we'll slip stitch into the next stitch on the sweater, and the next, and the next. Continue like this, heading towards the top of your sleeve stitches. And as you can see here, I'm about to slip stitch onto some of the sleeve stitches. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to enhance some of that neckline shaping we did earlier. So if the whole idea is to make the back taller than the front, we can emulate that in our ribbing as well. So starting at the sleeve, I'm going to make the ribbing 1 stitch shorter by doing a decrease right now. To do that, you can either just skip the first half double crochet, or I'm going to work a front post around the first 2 half double crochets. And then complete the remaining 4. Then when I work back down, these first 2 got crocheted together, and I only have 5 half double crochet posts in my ribbing now. For the rest of the sleeve stitches, I'm going to continue ribbing with 5 half double crochets. Then when I slip stitch into my first neckline stitches, I'll repeat the decrease again, getting my ribbing stitch count down to just 4. So now the neckline ribbing is just a bit shorter than the back, and I think every little bit helps. So continue across the front stitches with a 4-stitch ribbing. Then, when you reach the opposite sleeve, we'll just need to increase 1 stitch. To do that, all you gotta do is work 2 front post half doubles around the first stitch. Just be sure to work post stitches around both of those new ones on your way back. Increase 1 more time when you reach the back stitches again, and you've got some neckline ribbing all the way around. Just seam the final row and foundation chain together with a little back loop to foundation chain slip stitch action. And that seam matches your front post half double crochet ribbing perfectly. For the bottom cuff, do whatever width of ribbing you'd like all the way around, no increasing or decreasing needed. I thought about adding ribbing to the sleeves, but I did a little test run and ultimately decided I liked the sleeves better without it. And as for those sleeves, we've got a teeny bit of finishing work to contend with. The little flappy do at the underarms, which got created when we added those neck shaping rows, really doesn't look that noticeable when you put it on, so you don't actually have to do anything. But when I laid the sleeve out like this, it just became a little obvious to see where I could seam the flap down here. So I busted out a needle and a little scrap yarn, and just popped a couple of stitches in there. And as I was going, I took the opportunity to close up this gap here just a little bit more. And it looked so dang clean and finished, it's kind of worth the trouble. And that's how you crochet the Gemerald top. I think this might be my most wearable piece I've ever crocheted. I mean, they're all wearable, but this is really like, people aren't going to believe you made it. I love that I can wear it all year round. I can even add sleeves one day if I feel like it. I just love this tee, and I hope you love it too. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!